today with Chris Brown. He's the Chief Operating Officer of the Helpful Monkey. And we're here today to talk about their product, Smojo. Chris, welcome and thank you for being here.
Hey, good morning. Thank you.
I'd like to really just give our followers a little bit of background about you, about the company. How did you first find cannabis?
Like many people of my generation, in the 70s, cannabis was quite readily available everywhere. So I certainly partook then, more in a recreational stance. But not to great extent, like many people in my generation, kind of stopped using cannabis for quite some time. There was a couple of decade lapse there. And then throughout the 2000s, I was a triathlete and eventually overdid it by the end of the 2000s and blew out my back. I ended up with several surgeries, a lot of pain. So I started looking for ways to treat that without heavy use of opioids. And cannabis actually worked quite well for that. I was able to use very little cannabis, not cannabis, excuse me, use very little opioids during those hospital stays, only just for the acute pain. And then eventually was able to eliminate the opioids altogether through the use of cannabis. So it was actually quite helpful for me during that time period and as well as now.
So many others that experience a physical ailment or they injure themselves, we use cannabis not only to help the physical pain, but also the mental pain. Would you agree that cannabis, that there are, medicinal benefits, there's personal benefits to it? I mean, are you a believer in using cannabis as medicine?
Oh, absolutely. I've had a medical card for quite some time now. We support the Weed for Warriors project. They're doing really great work in California here. It's as you identified, it's not just the actual pain. There's a lot of anxiety that comes from chronic pain. So from a relaxation standpoint, it's very good along those lines as well. Anybody who's suffered chronic pain in any arena can tell you that that there's a lot more than just that acute pain that needs to be dealt with. And I think cannabis is well suited for that. I don't always, it doesn't stop you from using maybe a Tylenol or an Advil or something, but certainly in conjunction with that, I find that it's quite helpful.
So where did you get the idea for the Helpful Monkey and for your product Smojo?
Well, it's really kind of interesting. I had worked for many years, a couple of decades almost, in the software industry with a few partners, and after that business had run its course, we sold everything off, and my old partner called me one day and he said, I've got this idea, and I've invented this little device, and I want to know if you're interested, in what you think about it. And so he sends me his first prototype Smojo, or one of the first prototype Smojos, and to take a look at, and it really it was an immediate get for me. I thought, oh my gosh, this Smojo, which turns out to be the simplest little product. It's a smoking screen for glass pipes and both hand pipes and bongs or water pipes, and it just filled a really big hole in the market from what I could see. So we decided to, he asked if I was interested in forming the company and getting things going. I'm kind of that guy. I have a lot of meta skills in that arena. So I'm the person who gets things done within the company. So we set off to form the company, Helpful Monkey, to create cost-effective and really useful accessories for the smoking market. So that's kind of how it came along. When I really looked at it, it's so funny how the simplest little thing can be such a life-changing environment. And from an evangelical standpoint, people think, well, a smoking screen. Well, how can that be so useful? Well, if you look back into the 70s, smoking, the screens that we use, those little mesh screens, they were a hassle then. And after I started using medical cannabis, they're still a hassle, and it's amazing that there really hadn't been any innovation. So we proceeded to start building the company, manufacturing and marketing Smojo from that point.
That's really interesting what you said, from the timeline of screens.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first started smoking cannabis when I was 15, going under the faucet and getting screen out. And then my mother being like, what is wrong with the water? Why is it doing this? And so let's talk about functionality here. So one of the things that I remember when I used a screen was, obviously you're smoking cannabis, and like in any pipe, there's resin left over. How is it so different for the everyday consumer? What makes it different than how we've historically used screens in the past?
Well, the first thing is that it's permanent. And if you go to looking at the biggest downfall of those little mesh screens is that they quickly become permanently clogged. There's just no way that you will be able to clean the resin out of those small meshes. And slowly your draw becomes much worse. Or they fall out. You go to dump your bowl and they fall out. Like I said, the draw really becomes difficult. And in water pipes, what people don't realize, those really filthy, a lot of times you'll see this just filthy water in a water pipe. Well, that's because that screen really isn't filtering all that well. All it's doing is blocking the draw and everything. So where the Smojo comes is, so if you'll take a look at this little pipe here, okay, that's a Smojo in the bowl there. One of the things that makes it so much different is that it's not going to fall out. It's snapped in there and it's permanent. It's made of 100% surgical stainless steel, so it's not going to impart any flavor. Occasionally I'll have people, when they're thinking about Smojo, well, that metal causes flavor, to be added to the material in my bowl. And I think that's more psychological for some people than others, because the biggest challenge I offer to that is, well, we're made of surgical stainless steel. It's 100%. It's sourced in the USA, manufactured, packaged. What about your stainless steel frying pan? Has that ever imparted flavor to the food that you're eating? No, it hasn't. So, I believe that, when people say that, they generally do think, well, maybe it will. But the truth of the matter is it's not going to impart any flavor. And it's easy to clean. We have videos up on our website that show a couple of different ways, but a little alcohol swab with the Smojo in the bowl will clean it out fine for most people from time to time. And then occasionally, if you take just a little, one of these little tools that you might use to pry it out of the bowl, you'll see this little Smojo that's what you're looking at. This little device right here. And I'll spread the legs of it a little bit. You can do that to snap it back in the bowl. And then you can just soak it in alcohol or burn it off with a lighter, or whatever, and then easily turn back. And I like to put the bowl upside down and snap it in. And you see, again, it's not coming out. So that little device and those features are what make it so attractive to so many people.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone really does need a screen. I mean, nobody wants ash in their mouth. We always, at one point in our lives, we get ash in our teeth, and our friends are too stoned to tell us, hey, you got something in your teeth. And so it really just helps helps the overall user experience. Have you, during this whole process, in the cannabis industry, a lot of us, we are faced with a lot of stigmas, adversity. Have you been up against any pushback during your journey with developing Smojo or with the Helpful Monkey? I mean, what are some of the things that you feel like you might be fighting against in the cannabis industry?
We were up against increased scrutiny or pushback completely at every turn. And I was really surprised, when we started this. Cannabis, medical cannabis has been legal for almost 20 years in California. It's the recreational for certainly a handful of years, but we still absolutely. One of the first things was, as we were starting to prototype the metal, after we were prototyping in house, we needed to start getting some professional tooling done, and only 10% of the metal companies that we were contacting were even interested in doing the prototypes, because once they found out what the device was, they thought, well, we don't want to be involved with that. And it was just shocking to me. I look at it as, it's a smoking accessory. It's no different than an ashtray in my mind, but we still have reached it. Business insurance, banking, everything has received increased scrutiny. The Visa just changed regulations in November to where they feel that that it's such a high risk to have a tobacco related product to purchase process charges on tobacco related processes online, that they stopped doing it altogether. So, and it's really that shocked me, when that came out. It was quietly rolled out. So many of the payment providers that were processing online tobacco sales had stopped, just because Visa made it much more difficult. A lot of advertising, and we get it from both ends, because, in accordance with DEA guidelines, we're classified as a adult use tobacco product. We're a smoking accessory, and that's where we fall. So we kind of get it from the tobacco side as well as the cannabis side. So fortunately, I think some of those stigmas are moving away. States are becoming successful with their either medical or recreational endeavors, and so over time, hopefully that's going to change. And I'm looking forward to more federal legislation that will ease things as well.
I think we all are. I think the banking and definitely in the credit card processing, obviously we as a media company, we don't touch the plant, just like yourself. And, we get QuickBooks shut down one time. So it comes from every angle. In regards, you mentioned it was challenging even finding a third party to work with you to manufacture the product. So tell us a little bit about who you did end up working with and what that relationship has been like.
We're working with some companies on the East Coast that helped us with our CAD CAM. It's surprising how detailed your drawings need to be, and especially when you're dealing with something small. I remember I was an apprentice machinist in decades ago, and it's kind of interesting that people don't understand kind of the tolerances you work with there. And anytime you're looking at prototyping and tooling for manufacturing, you have some pretty tight tolerances. So we have some good partners on the East Coast in both our drawings as well as our manufacturing and tooling. So we've pretty much we've sourced everything in the U.S. to try to keep tighter controls over the quality of our products. So all our packaging and manufacturing is done here in the U.S.
Can you tell us what a day is like in your position? From start to finish, what does the average day look like working with Smojo?
It's kind of an attention deficit disorder person's dream. And that is, and that's because we're a small company. There's 3 partners here. We outsource most everything that we do, and we're all hands on. While we all have different skills. I have one partner that is our VP of sales, and he is just a sage of a salesman. He understands sales and working with customers, and especially from an account executive standpoint with the distributors and retailers. As the helpful monkey, we sell primarily through our distribution and retailers in the U.S. and Canada. And he manages those relationships. My other partner, Steve, has a tremendous background in marketing and advertising. And me, like I said, I'm kind of the person who makes things happen. As the COO, I manage the relationships with all our outsourced partners. That day for me, it starts off with reviewing marketing and advertising, seeing what's going on, monitoring our social media. Even though we have a social media manager that does that, I still, of course, keep an eye on it. So for 1 minute I might be doing marketing, the next minute I might be doing bookkeeping, and then later on manufacturing, customer relations, really a little bit of everything. And that's really what keeps the job fresh. I like having my hands in a lot of things. The supply chain has been very interesting in this industry to manage. Managing all those little hooks and keeping things running smoothly has been a challenge, but it's every day is a different opportunity to succeed, as I kind of looked at.
We talked a little bit about the pushback and regulations. As of now, I mean, we have a new administration in house. What are your thoughts, or what's your standpoint on the current system with cannabis? The war on drugs. Obviously, this industry has a long history of disproportionately marginalizing communities. Now we're able to come in, we're able to profit off it. What are your thoughts, just as an entrepreneur in the space, on social equity, the war on drugs, where our country is today with cannabis?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's been so back and forth over the past couple of decades, actually. And if you start, I think most people these days recognize that the whole war on drugs, was a false flag operation, allowing politicians to marginalize what they felt were, undesirable elements, and that's. It's really stuck, for quite some time, and a lot of why the stigma is still there today. I'm hopeful and very positive about the future, because we have seen states take up what I've seen recently is that more states are starting to legalize at least medical cannabis, if not recreational, and they're doing it through legislation rather than referendum, which is, and I think that's because they've seen all the states who, through referendum, have shown that, the largest majority is fine with this, and it also creates revenue. There's just so many positive things. Unfortunately, federally, we haven't seen that level yet, but we're starting to see progress. And I think, I'm hopeful that this administration will, even in a bipartisan way, start to support at least eliminating all of the inequalities in justice. You're starting to see a lot of the states go through and negate a lot of the convictions that had lower level cannabis convictions, and so we're really starting to see some good progress along that line. A lot of people, especially in the judicial system, you look at the judicial system and a lot of people go, well, it's horrible. Well, I'm not sure that it's horrible. I think our judicial system, while it has flaws, is probably one of the best in the world. There are flaws. The biggest flaw is that the judicial system moves so much slower than our social systems. Social norms change rapidly, and the judicial system isn't about jumping on every social change. So it takes time for the social changes to affect both the judicial as well as political systems, and we're seeing an outline of that. You have several generations of people who were persecuted for cannabis related offenses that really it's I think I've always liked the term I hear quite often is the only thing I've ever seen anybody kill on cannabis is a pizza. And that's and it's really true, when you look at it. So I think there's while there's a lot of work to be done in the legal system, but it's moving forward.
Absolutely. I agree. And, I've been overseas before, and there are other countries with a lot more terrible legal system than the United States. And so while I agree it is slow, I mean, I myself have been arrested for cannabis before, and, it was a very lengthy, drawn out court process, nearly a year of my life. And it's almost designed to make you lose hope, give up, get exhausted.
Right.
But with social movements now in our country, I feel like we are accelerating, hopefully, the judicial system. So on that note, where do you see the company in the next 5 years? Do you have other products that you plan to launch and develop, or is this really, the one item you're focused on and you'll be focused on for the next few years, or will you be expanding?
Well, since the beginning, we've had ideas for some other products as well, and we do intend to have other products rolled out. A handful of little accessories that are small, cost-effective accessories that our goal is for it to make your life a little easier, and that's really what we want to do. That's what we're focused on. We've been in business for a little over 2 years now, and I would have thought we would have had another product out by now. Especially since we have a few ideas, but we've really had to focus a lot on getting the word out. Those challenges in marketing and advertising, and being a small company, there isn't. We don't have any large investors. We weren't interested in that in this endeavor. This is intent to be, a lifestyle business for both our lifestyle as well as our customers. And so in another 5 years, I expect we will have a handful of new products. Keep an eye out for us, and we'll definitely roll out some kind of cool, fun little accessories.
And for those watching this, how can they get a hold of you? How can they find the company? Do you have social media profiles, website you want to share with us?
Sure. Smojoscreen.com is the best place to find out about Smojo. We have some videos up there and information about the product, how to make sure that find out whether Smojo is going to fit in your bowl, how to clean it, things like that. So that's a customer facing website. Also tells people where they can buy it. There's a list of some online retailers, as well as if you just did a simple Google search for Smojo Screen, you would find a whole litany of distributors and retailers that carry as well as Smojo, as well as some online retailers. Seeing a lot more of those as well. For people interested in carrying Smojo in their shops, larger retail chains and distributors, they can go to our corporate website, which is directed to them, and that's thehelpfulmonkey.com. so they can find out about it there. And we also maintain for our end users, we maintain social media presence with @Smojo Screen. So if you follow @Smojo Screen on, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, you'll find that we run bi-weekly contests all the time to, give away some free Smojos and t-shirts and things like that. So follow us on social media, and you'll find out about our contest.
All right. Well, thank
Hmm.
you so much. We'll make sure to check it out. I mean, I actually want to get my hands on some now because I do have a clogged bowl often. And I haven't used a screen since I was in maybe 10 years, so it really is
Yeah.
such a great accessory to have. And it's something that isn't, I don't know, it seems like a no-brainer, like
Yeah.
I should have this accessory, I should be having like a cleaner smoking experience. So thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate your time and for speaking with us this afternoon.